everyone, Tricia Weber here. I'm joined with Annette, and we're going to be having a discussion, but quickly I wanted to just tell you where we are today. We're at Squeaky Cafe, and that's located off of McGregor in Fort Myers. If you haven't been, you must come check it out. We decided we have a series, so you might have seen us here before, but I wanted to show you guys a beautiful view of the coffee bar. So they are known for breakfast, but they're also open for lunch and dinner, so you guys don't want to miss coming to eat here and dine
and good coffee.
Yes, always good coffee.
So my name is Annette. I own a law firm with my partner. I own a title company with my partner. And I also teach. So I had the opportunity to meet Tricia in one of my classes, and we're going to share information with you that we think will be beneficial.
Great, thanks so much. So today we want to talk about another hot topic. I do represent buyers and sellers, and there's a number of things we negotiate through contracts. So in negotiations, we can determine who's going to pay for closing costs.
Sure.
And they might want to opt, a lot of times somebody will choose and have a preference. They know a law firm that they work well with, or they know a title company they work well with. They're familiar with their fee structure and their practice. We wanted to know what might make someone lean more toward using and closing at a title company, or using a law firm and an attorney to represent them through that real estate transaction.
Sure. So we can break it up between sellers and we have buyers. Sellers can choose to pay for the closing services and title insurance policy, and they can choose to close at a law firm or a title company. The distinction would be, if they choose to close at a law firm, are they going to seek legal representation for which they might have to pay an hourly rate? Or are they just going to close to a title company and there would be no legal representation? The converse of that is you can do the same thing as a buyer. As a buyer, you can make a decision if you want to pay for closing services in the title insurance policy, and most likely you'll get to choose. Or you as a buyer can also make a decision if you want to seek legal representation to protect yourself as a buyer. What would that look like? So it would not be available through a title company because there's no attorney representation in a title company. It's going to be available if the buyer decides they want to seek legal representation to seller's going to pay, but buyer wants to be able to try to protect themselves. So what happens? If it's under an offer circumstance, then the attorney can review the offer before it's presented. The attorney can review a counter offer, and this would all be obviously for a retaining fee. Okay. And then an hourly fee, depending upon how that attorney works. Or if the buyer decides after they've executed the contract that they now want legal representation, the attorney's hands are kind of tied a little bit, but the attorney can step in and make sure that the closing documents are prepared, whether it's prepared by another attorney firm or it's going to be prepared by a title company. The attorney who is the attorney giving the representation to the buyer will ensure that the closing documents are prepared in accordance with the actual contract. And that's a big deal because a lot of times you do have other law firms or other title companies that aren't really following the terms of the contract. And that's the best way for the buyer to get their legal representation.
Wonderful. So in that scenario then, where maybe the seller negotiated, they're going to be paying the closing costs, but the buyer does want then to include counsel on their behalf, how many hours do you think would go into having to review the initial contract if there's no counters, because that can go on and on.
Sure.
But if the initial contract is to be reviewed and then closing documents before close.
Sure. Let's be real clear. If it's not a big piece of land, it's not a big transaction, it's just a regular, single family home or something like that, it shouldn't really be more than 2 hours.
Great.
And I always say it's dependent upon how cooperative whoever the closing agent is going to work. And you don't want to be an attorney who's going to be there and looking, make sure every single I is dotted, every single T is crossed. You don't want to cause the transaction to be delayed or not closed.
Right.
You just need to be retained to look over everything to make sure your buyer feels comfortable. And that's the important part.
Great. Well, that was very helpful. I hope you guys found some helpful tips in that today. And feel free to reach out anytime to me directly, and I'll put you in touch with Annette if you have further questions. You need to get in touch with somebody at one of her firms or closing company to help you on the transaction. Thanks again, Annette.
You're welcome.